Sometimes a book finds you in the middle of life's hardest breaks and shows you how healing can begin. It reminds us that even shattered pieces can be made whole in a new way. Now, I've got an author I'd like you to meet who shares honest, compassionate stories of loss, resilience, and the strength widows discover when life changes without warning. Stick around because we're going to learn more about her book and the writing process she followed to create it.
Welcome to A Book Finds You podcast. This week's guest is Karen Justice. Join us as she shares the inspiration behind her book, along with her writing process, routines, and challenges. And now here's your host, best-selling author, Rob Jolles.
Today's guest, Karen Justice, knows change, moving 31 times, changing jobs from housekeeping on a dude ranch, handling collections for a hospital, and writing for an expat newspaper in Norway are a sampling of what she's experienced. One of the biggest changes she's faced, however, was being widowed. Happy to have you with us, so welcome to the show, Karen.
Thank you so very much, Rob. It's a pleasure.
Well, you bet. It's a pleasure. And, I normally ask people, how did the book find you? Well, I've got a sense of how the topic found you. But so let's change your first question a little bit. Let's ask it this way. How did writing a book about this experience find you?
It found me sitting in front of a fireplace in Sedona, Arizona. Let me give you the background on that. I have two friends, two women I knew professionally and personally, one each. And after we were widowed, after COVID, we started traveling together. And one of our trips, the first night we had arrived in Sedona, Arizona, we're sitting on the porch in front of the fireplace in our coats and so forth because it's chilly, but we wanted to be out there in front of that fireplace. And we're talking about the issues that we had faced since we talked last. And one of us rolled our eyes and said, we ought to write a book. And the next morning we were at Staples, getting notepads and pens, and then going on the Jeep ride, and then going up to Antelope Canyon, and then going out to the Grand Canyon. And in the evening, we would have our quiet time, and we'd all be writing out like our stories. And from there, you asked about the writing process. I'll save the from there. But the book found us, found me and my friends sitting in front of a fireplace in Sedona, Arizona.
Well, now you know why we titled the show the way we do, because rarely do people look at me and go, I don't understand the question, or I just thought our book would be good. It finds us. We don't find it, it finds us. And a lot of times it's sitting by a fireplace reminiscing. I am curious, though, however, that we've got notepads in here. So you're old school on your writing. Now, I get the fact that maybe you outlined on a notepad. Did you write the book on a notepad or did you write it on a computer?
Well, first of all, remember we were on vacation.
All right.
And so we didn't have anything. I mean, I hate writing on my phone. And I didn't take my computer. I'm in Sedona to have fun with my two friends. And the writing of the book ruined our get-together. It's not ruined. But every get-together we had from February of 23 until March of 26 was all working on the book. A couple months ago, we went on another fun trip. So that's why we had papers and pencils we had to go buy, and papers and pens we had to go buy at Staples. We didn't take it with us.
All right. Well, now, so this truly was unplanned and impromptu. I will tell you that I mentored an author one time from prison who wrote on a yellow pad. He decided he wanted to write a book. And I said, well, okay, but here's what you have to do. And what I failed to remind him was sort of how long is this book going to be? So the first one, and he took a picture of it, was 1,800 pages on a yellow legal pad, if you can believe that.
That's dedication.
Yeah. But that man's book did well, and they actually made a movie about it for another time. But it started on a notepad, my friend, so I won't make fun of you. The whole book was written on a notepad. All right, let me ask you about this. Before we got on the air, you showed me the cover, and I'm gonna mess this up, but I saw a Kintsugi pot. What do you call that pot on the cover? And why do you think it's the right symbol for what you're working with here?
Well, the Kintsugi pot isn't on the cover. It's one of our designs.
Okay.
I'll show it to you again because, can you see
Yep.
it?
Yes, I can. Now, people who are listening can't see it, so hold it up. I'm going to describe it or you describe it.
I'll describe it.
Yeah.
Because a kintsugi pot, kintsugi is a Japanese word. And the Japanese believe that things that are broken, beautiful things that are broken, can still be put together in a beautiful way and continue to be useful. And that's our philosophy about widowhood. You get broken, your life gets shattered into many, many pieces, but you find a way to put them back together. Kintsugi pots generally are put together with um, an adhesive glue sort of product that has gold in it or some other precious metal. And so you find something precious that can help you glue your life back together because just because you're widowed, just because you're broken temporarily, doesn't mean that you're broken permanently and that you don't have a useful purpose or life until you're no longer here.
Right. Well, I still think it takes courage to sit down and write this out. I also think it's probably the greatest therapy you could have ever given yourself because when we set out to write a book, and people don't know this, but you do because you're an author now, it's that we can have a tidy little outline and we can think we know where we're going. But I've never written a book that was perfectly squared to that outline. And sometimes it makes us ask questions we haven't been asking.
My second book was definitely that, not to the outline, but this one, we had in mind what we wanted to do, but you've written as well. We probably tore that thing apart and edited and re-edited it 37 times or more. But the interesting thing about writing with two other people, a lot of people have asked us about writing together. Yes, our own stories were our own stories, but they didn't let this, we didn't let them lay there because as we were writing and we're working together on those trips, I said we got together, but we weren't on vacation. Oh my heavens, Rob. My co-authors poked me. They prodded me. They pushed me. They insulted me. It was about, Karen, you got to tell that story. You got to let yourself be vulnerable. People are not going to believe you if it all looks like, roses and cherries. Where did it hurt? What did you feel? What did you get angry about? I don't want to tell, there are certain things I felt that I didn't want to share, like guilt, or because I had experienced what is called anticipatory grief. My husband was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and we were blessed that he lived another 3 years.
Wow.
But I lived on that. He's leaving me. I need to prepare. He's still here. I need to not write him out of my life. And then when he was gone, it was he's no longer suffering. I'm no longer on the tightrope. I can breathe again. There's that relief, and then there's the guilt. So, but it's a hard thing to admit that you were relieved. And it's a hard thing to talk about feeling guilty after someone else dies. But one of my co-authors, a nurse, a PhD, a very black and white kind of person, said, it's not all like the movie The Notebook. Death is not a pleasant thing. And just you can't always stay in the room. You can't always be holding your loved one. You've got to deal with the circumstances as they are. And that was one of the stories. That was one of the facts we had to share, despite how it hurt us to say that we had been through that.
Yeah. Well, what do you think the biggest surprise that you encountered after writing the book?
um, it a surprise. It was a surprise and a gift. And the stories that some people told us about how the book affected them. One of our early readers told me she had been widowed in her 20s, and she's now probably late 40s, I guess. In case she's listening, I'm not going to make her any older because I don't want to insult her, but it's been at least 20 years that she's been widowed. And she said, after having read our book, it helped her be relieved of the guilt that she felt that she had continued to build her life. Her husband was killed right in front of her. So, I mean, there's that trauma of losing your loved one right before your eyes. But having, the fact that reading our book helped her let go of the grief, let go of the guilt rather, was a gift. The other surprise was how um, some people want to push back. They don't want to hear the story. And yeah, widowhood's not any fun, but our primary uh, target market is people who are still married, who need to be prepared, who need to know um, that they need to get all the paperwork in place. They need to know how to operate the generator that you use in the backyard when the power goes off. You need to know who to call when the furnace breaks down, or the guys need to know how to turn on the oven or how to run the washing machine. It's both spouses have their own responsibilities. And it's just little things like that, let alone making sure your beneficiaries are not your ex-spouse.
Right.
And so the fact that nobody wants to listen to it makes me think we maybe should have titled it differently, because people keep saying, oh, my friend was recently widowed, I'm going to get your book for her. No, give it to your friends who are still married, please.
Right. Well, and we've all probably know somebody who could have used a book like that because this was never going to happen to them, and created their legacy, their last. I can't use the word gift, but their last offering was to create massive dysfunction in a family.
Right.
Not only not knowing how to turn the generator on or off or to check it, but to update wills and things like that, which can be disastrous in families.
One of my co-authors has another, like a workbook that you get all your paperwork together with. And when she's presenting, she says, you do not want your children or your other loved ones to want to dig you up and shoot you again. You you want to give them a gift and not give them chaos.
Right.
So,
Right.
dig you up. Do it
Yeah.
now.
One of the challenges that many authors have, particularly when it's their first book, is somewhere along the line, the mind starts questioning and saying, is this really worth it? Is it worth pursuing? Should we be doing this? Uh, how did you deal with that, particularly your first book, or did that never cross your mind?
Oh, I think it crosses every author's mind, whether it's their first book or a second or third book. It's like, what do I have to tell anybody else? What? And my co-authors and I did a lot of writing courses about reading. We read books about writing, etc. And one of the things that kept coming up is, even if somebody has written about a Kintsugi pot or a generator before, your view on it is unique. Your view is going to connect to some other reader. So your view, your expertise, your experience, the lessons you learned are valuable because somebody out there needs it.
Yeah.
And so that's what kept us going.
Good, good. Well, I'm always rooting for that other voice of reason that puts together something logical like that. But it's emotional, particularly on the days we don't feel like writing, and so we have to have an answer to that question. I like your answer. How about a writing routine? I got the part about when you were in Sonoma, but when you separated and continued to write, I'm assuming everybody had their own routine. But what about yours? What kind of writing routine did you follow?
I'm a morning person, and I'm also one of those people who wakes up with my mind working 90 miles an hour. So whether or not I had a routine, I am not a routine person. I cannot really say I had this routine. What I can tell you is I would wake up with an idea in my head, and I'm not really a coffee drinker either. I would get up and I'd be in front of my laptop writing down whatever it was that was on my mind. And my watch will tell me it's, 10 of the hour, it's time to stand up and go, oh yeah, I'll do that later. My routine was, when my brain felt like it needed to unload, I pulled out my computer, and
Hmm.
it's usually in the morning for 2 or 3 hours. There were days when I wrote all day. I would write from 7 in the morning till 7 at night. Sometimes I'd forget to eat.
Oh, and we are complete opposites that way. I'm not normally, oh no, my wife would tell me normally. I guess I am a creature of habit, but for writing, I particularly when I'm working on a manuscript and I work with conventional publishers and deadlines, it's like working out. I can't wait to feel like this is a good day to work out. No, it's Tuesday and this is when I work out. Or so, but that helps me. Everybody has their own way of doing it. But me, I'm much more programmed than that. Uh, for you, what was the most challenging part of the process for you? You're not a routine person. We're learning about that, learning a lot about you. But okay, so you're right when you feel like it. Some days you go all day and you're not even eating. Good for you. What's the most challenging part of the process?
Not always not eating because there's always chocolate beside me. I gain weight when I walk when I write because I'm a chocoholic. But the most difficult part, besides avoiding the chocolate, I think honestly, it's being concise. You know, there's that challenge between making sure you explain something thoroughly for the reader, not assuming that they know where you're going or what you mean, so that you can be clear and complete and fully explain it without disrespecting their intelligence. But on the other hand, not beating a dead horse with, you know, about whatever it is. So it was that fine line between, should I say more? Do I need to say more? Should I say less? That was one of the things that challenged me.
When you wrote it, let's put a pin in this and stay here for a second. So when you wrote it, did you just write until it was done, or were you self-editing as you went along? In other words, were you challenging what you were writing, or did you just get it written and then challenge it?
Mostly I just wrote, and then I would go back and say, good grief, you carried on around that. Or who's going to know what you're talking about when you just use that one? So I went back. And as I said, together as co-authors, we would edit each other's work. And so that was helpful in understanding that I wasn't clear on one particular point. But before I even shared it with my co-authors, I would go back and fill in the blanks, cut out the words. So no, I think when it's like a brain dump, you know, you've got all these ideas in your head. You've got to get them out on paper. You clean them up later.
Yeah.
That's what the experts that we've listened to or talked to say. So
Well, you listen to the right experts, because I'm telling you, Karen, half the experts will tell you no. They like when you write some, edit some, look at some. I don't know if I'm going to call myself an expert, but I'm going to tell you I am fairly opinionated on this one. And I just want to confirm what I believe that you did was the right way to do it, because I think you'd still be writing the first chapter if you kept picking it apart. It's hard to expand and contract at the same time.
right.
So you were in what we call expansion mode, which is get it all down there. I don't care if you tell the same story twice or if they don't follow this. That will be phase two. But can you imagine micromanaging as you were going along and the creativity and ideas you would have lost?
I'm not a perfectionist, enough of a perfectionist to do that because, you know, when you're in the thought extraction mode, you do not edit. You just really want to make sure your thought is complete and down. I've written books where the developmental editor has said this paragraph that you got on page 49 really should belong on page 122, so that somebody else has been able to deconstruct my book and put it back together. Honestly, now when I talk about the deconstructing, we did that ourselves. Now that I think about it, we cut apart our book paragraph by paragraph or page by page and spread it all over, each of us individually, like on our stories and then on the book itself, and then spread it all over the room and put it back together again. So we did things both on the computer and physically with small pieces of paper all over a table or floor. So
Good. Well, you're
great.
what we call in the training world, I call that an unconscious competent, meaning you did it right, but you didn't even know you were doing it right at the same time. Now, we could get somebody else on the show who would say otherwise, but I wouldn't put them on the show if I knew they were coming. I'm kidding you. I really believe, and we're trying to help people who are writing, who are listening to this podcast, that's not something that you should do casually, that you really need to allow yourself to just write your story, tell your story. And then there's always the opportunity to go back and pick it apart. So good for you. All right, let's switch to everybody's favorite part, which is the publishing and marketing end of this thing. All right, let's talk about the path to publishing. What type of publishing path did you follow?
Well, again, that takes, we you do a lot of research on that. And my belief, you have a publisher, but unless you've published several things in the past that were like really big sellers, or you fell off a 400-foot cliff and lived to tell about it, or you're a celebrity, it's hard to find a professional publisher to pick up your manuscript these days. So you can do self-publishing, do a manuscript, stick it on Amazon, draw a picture on the cover and self-publish, like really basic self-publishing. Or you could do, whether or not ours is hybrid or not, but we hired somebody to do a developmental editing. We took a course, an online course with a company that I don't want to mention because it's not an advertising venue here, but learned a lot from them. And from them, I got the name of a company that would do the cover design. They would do developmental editing, but we'd already had that done. They edited it, they proofread it, they prepared it, they did the layout, gave us choices about what type style we wanted, what kind of spacing we wanted, what kind of margins we wanted, headers, footers, left, right, bottom, center, whatever. And prepared it all so that they could then release it to Amazon, which then we released to Ingram Spark, because the things you learn when you're writing a book, because Ingram Spark then is a purveyor that libraries, retailers, bookstores, etc. will buy the book from, because they're not going to buy it from Amazon. And we chose not to do an audiobook, one, for the additional expense, but two, in my humble opinion, our book is not one that you can listen to while doing something else. I think that Widows Among Us needs somebody's full attention to fully absorb our stories and the lessons learned, the advice, the admonitions, etc., that we share.
Would you ever revisit that? The book's been out for how long?
A year and a half.
Any thought of revisiting that? I'm not talking you into it. I think you make a good case against it, but a year and a half later, still feel the same way?
Well, there's two things about it. One, you've got another book launch, which would be really cool. That would, one more reason to celebrate, get into the public. But honestly, my opinion about, I don't think our book is one that should be an audiobook. I haven't really talked to my co-authors about that recently. We're just not pursuing it at the moment because of the additional expense.
Okay.
We have the regular softcover trade size. We have a large print edition, and it's available as an ebook. So there are three ways people could read it, or read it actually.
All right.
That's where we are.
All right. I got a thought for you, although I'm not even sure this technology still exists. So, boy, this is already coming off the great. But one of my books is in what's called an enhanced ebook mode. And what that allows you to do is it's an ebook with about 22 to 25 minutes of video. And it allows a more intimate experience with the reader to see and hear the authors maybe discuss a topic or an idea. And it just, let's face it, if we're putting a book on a Kindle, etc., and we can squeeze some video in there, that might bridge the gap a little bit. So we'll both look and still make sure it exists. I will tell you, it didn't sell very well on my book, but I actually Googled it a couple weeks ago because I tried to figure out whatever happened to that.
Right.
And it just, it wasn't very well received. But me as an author, I love it. I really love that enhanced ebook. But the rest of the public is not agreeing with me necessarily. But look into it. Because the thing about the audiobook is, and I can't speak to the expenses because I'm spoiled, my publishers pay for all that.
Yeah.
So I couldn't even tell you what it costs. But what I like about it is that it takes care of a different type of follower who is not a big reader.
I agree, because we have many followers and many friends who are not big readers. They don't have the time. So they do an awful lot of podcasts and a lot of audiobooks. But I still hold true to my precept that it is not going to be fully understood. It's not going to be as valuable to the listener as it would be to the reader. But I like your enhanced audiobook. The other thing I've thought about, Rob, is just reading part of the book on a social media page, like on our Facebook page or on Instagram, and just reading a section of it there that could be into the video, air quotes for the listeners, world.
Okay, well, now we got an idea here. So let's play with this for a second. Is there a website for this book?
There's a website for Three Widows.
Yes. Okay. Is there a lead magnet on there? I'm sure you want to start gathering your followers. Okay.
Well, lead magnet and public service. Because
Okay.
with our book, one of the things we talk about is the preparation. We talk about the widow taking care of herself because um, you have brain fog and it makes you feel stupid because you can't hold on to anything. So we have checklists that give us your email. You can download our checklist. One about easy, a really quick, short checklist on being prepared. A checklist for things for a new widow to do, who to contact, what to do. Because again, when you're newly widowed, there's 400 hours of paperwork to do, male or female, husband or wife. It's just a whole lot of paperwork. And so things fall through the cracks. So we have a checklist for that. We have a checklist for how to help a widow. The things, please, don't say to a widow, call me if you need me, because there's no widowed person who has the brain cells to come up with a to-do list for somebody else. So we have a list of how to help the first week, the first month, the first year, and then forever thereafter. Because short as I am, I can't check my CO2 and smoke alarm batteries. My ladder's not that tall. So I have a beer and battery plan. Come over and check the batteries and I'll give you a beer. But so the checklists are our lead magnet.
Right. Okay. Well, first of all, you do look 6'2" on screen, so
If
your size isn't being given away. But okay, that makes sense. I'm asking because I'm thinking if you did, let's forget we're not pushing you into the audiobook, but if you did do a reading of some sort, that might be a nice thing to give away to people who are following you. Or thinking of following you and going, do I want to give them my email address? I mean, well, here's what I'll give you if you give that to me. And so maybe it's an idea down the road.
Mhm.
All right. We got a couple more questions. I'll let you go. How about from what you've done so far? And I actually just delivered a presentation called Book Marketing on a Budget. All right. So I will make it a budget move, but maybe it surprised you. What's the best book marketing tip you could give us that won't break the bank? She's thinking.
I'm
She's
thinking, yes.
thinking.
Do, 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 do.
Well, this was one, Karen. Listen, getting on a podcast.
Yes,
People undervalue a podcast because
that's
now
true.
you're going to have something to put on your website. Little clip of it, maybe. We never know how many people might listen or who and where they're listening. So there's one. Give me another.
I think podcasts are really good and presentations because if you have, obviously any book has a select audience.
Hmm.
So it's either working with a book club, being at a trade show, speaking to Rotary or a women's group or a men's group or the Lions Club or the Rifle Club, depending on what it is you're writing about. Speaking to groups really matters.
Right.
Uh, connecting with your network and telling them what it is you would like to accomplish. Because on Monday, just a few days ago, we were at La Roche University in Pittsburgh, and we live in Maryland. Well, two of us live in Maryland, one of us lives in Ohio. We met in Pittsburgh and we taught a morning session on I didn't see that coming. The pros and cons and to dos about getting paperwork presented. In the afternoon, we did a session on that's not what I expected, about what other people expect about widowhood and what we expected. So presentations, trade shows, book clubs, podcasts, press releases, sometimes successful, sometimes not.
You know what I like about a press release? I like the look of a press release. I've got press releases on all my books, and I did have one self-published book, by the way, because uh, I wanted to use it as a lead magnet, and I would have to pay my publisher every time I gave away the book. But I like a press release because when we're trying to get that speaking gig at the Rotary Club or whatever it is, honestly, they get the fact that you wrote the book. A
Right.
picture of the book and a little cheat sheet that looks like a press release is a very nice way of handling your business electronically without giving away a book that you shipped, sent that was not going to be read. So that's one of the nice little values of a press release, in my opinion.
In place of a press release, the bottom of our when you and I exchanged emails arranging this, the bottom of our email has a media one sheet. And that one sheet has pictures of all three of us, topics that we talk about, and comments from reviewers, and then little tiny short bio, or at least the author's names. I can't remember if we have a bio on that or not. But the topics we cover, a picture, the name of the book, where they can buy it. So that's on the bottom of all of our signature sheets.
Good. We call that a signature file. And I actually think it's it's a very nice, smart budget move. And for those who are listening, you don't have to, that's a very complete, but we can get away with your name, your contact information, but some nice icons if you're writing a blog, or to the website, or to a podcast if you're putting them all in one place. But just to your Amazon authors page, really kind of line that up nicely. It's a professional look. And again, we do this in drips and drabs, but that's a nice way of getting a little bit more mileage out of that email. All right. Last question for you.
Advertising world, every exposure is exposure.
There you go. There you go. Last question. Somebody's listening right now and they're just sitting right on that line of wanting to write a book. And that's why they're walking the dog right now and going, I'll listen again. What advice would you give an aspiring writer who's in that think about it stage?
I think going back to the self-doubt, I think you've got a unique idea that's going to light somebody's fire, and it's going to put out the fire you haven't, well, not as in put it out that it'll die, but it'll satisfy the heat within you that wants to get this idea out. Somebody out there needs to hear what you have to say. And there's probably a million people that you don't even anticipate. So do it.
Definitely. Definitely. And I've never met an author who had the dream of writing a book, actually wrote the book and said, hey, you know what? It wasn't quite as good as the dream. Almost everybody says, oh, it exceeded the dream. So whatever you're thinking and whatever you imagine, add a little to it. So it's really but we put one foot in front of the other. It's one word at a time, page, paragraph, and away we go. How do people get a hold of you, Karen?
The website's the best way, threewidows.com. Info@ is our email that's on that website. So threewidows.com.
Outstanding. I am still all full of myself of being able to pronounce the pot name right out of the blue. But you notice I'm not saying it a second time. What's that pot called again?
Kintsugi, Kintsugi. Yeah,
in all fairness, it reads the way it's spelled. So who knew? But I wasn't going to guess it. Anyway, listen, been a terrific having you on. Congratulations on the book and the project and another book that you got. And welcome. When you write the first book, you're an author. I was told the moment you write the second book, you're a writer. So welcome to the club, writer. Pleasure talking to you. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Rob. It was delightful. Nice to talk with you.
Nice talking to you as well. Well, we'll do it again as well as we can next time, everybody. Until then, stay safe.
Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's guest author, we'd love you to rate, review, and share this episode with others. If you'd like more information on today's guest or the Maryland Writers Association, please visit our website at marylandwriters.org. You can also hear a brief history of the Maryland Writers Association by listening to episode 0.